Hi everybody, Jeff Yastine here, and as always make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Follow me on Twitter and on Facebook. Well, you know what? By now I'm starting to get really sick of hearing about GameStop and WallStreetBets and Reddit. And it's not because it's not fascinating or worth paying attention to. It's just that it's easy to lose your way at a time like this as an investor. You start thinking as you read the headlines, watch it on the news, how come I didn't get in on this deal of the century, buying GameStop or AMC Theaters or Silver or whatever it is that the Reddit crowd claims is the latest pump. And it's as if making 100%, 200%, 300%, 400% on a stock is something that will never happen again. If you missed your one chance somehow, and now you're going to be poor the rest of your life. Now, don't allow your thinking to be poisoned this way. I've had home runs and then some in the stocks that I've bought, and ones that I've recommended, had it happen multiple times just in the past 3 months. Now, there are times that it happens quickly, such as now. There are also times when it happens a lot more slowly, but it does happen and can happen on a regular basis if you focus on investing and speculating as a process rather than as a one-time event at the horse track, and you manage your risk. Now, supposedly all this is this new paradigm of social media influenced investing and speculating. But if you read about the chaotic, crazy history of Wall Street, this is nothing new at all. For much of Wall Street's history, pools of wealthy investors would often combine their buying power with the goal of what they called cornering a stock or commodity. The analogy is that when you corner like a wild animal, it has no place to escape and is thus captured. And once having done so, then they can drive the price of a stock insanely higher. Now, it became illegal to conspire to do a cornering operation after the 1929 crash, but clearly in the decade since, there's a lot of wiggle room on what is and is not legal, and not much interest from the SEC in vigorously enforcing those rules all that much. The only thing that's really new here is that, one, unlike what they called the pool operators of a century ago, GameStop speculators don't know each other except through social media. And two, the players are supposedly young retail investors of average means, although we don't really even know if that's true or not. I mean, there are plenty of hedge funds who follow Reddit social media boards for speculative stock ideas, the same as everyone else does. So don't fool yourself thinking that the game has really changed or that it's all passed you by. It hasn't. For instance, I love watching the TikTok and Twitter feeds as followers urge each other to hold the line, to not sell their GameStop shares. And in some ways I'm almost inspired by their idealism and collective thinking. When you get older, you forget what it's like to be part of a group with big, ambitious goals that can only be achieved together. But we're talking about speculating and investing, not civil rights or other truly inspirational, long-lasting social movements that change our world for the better. So my point here is that soon enough, it won't be cool anymore to own GameStop shares. We may already be past that point now. But somewhere out there, unfortunately, is a young man or woman, let's call him or her Top Tick Timmy or Top Tick Tina, who bought into the rhetoric, bought into the stock at a very high price now, and is still earnestly holding the line, and at the end of it all will be left holding the bag on a losing stock because GameStop shares might have had some value when it was selling below $20, but buying at $400 or more, the shares are priced just far, far beyond even the most wildly optimistic scenario. So at times like now, it's easy to convince ourselves that whatever we believe a stock is worth is the price of the stock that we're eventually going to get if we just believe in it and own it long enough. But it doesn't work that way. It's not a Wall Street conspiracy. It's not rich versus poor. It's just the speculation game. When a group of stocks gets too popular, too overvalued, the action moves elsewhere. For instance, in the late 1990s, it was all about .com tech stocks. But in the wake of the dot-com crash, then it moved to value stocks, that were cheap and out of favor. Then everyone wanted to own bank stocks and real estate plays as the housing market heated up until there was a housing bubble and that one popped. Then people moved on to gold and gold stocks, and then eventually emerging market stocks. Yesteryear's FANGs were called the BRICS: Brazil, Russia, India, and China. And if you didn't own BRIC stocks, you weren't cool. And then after that, I guess it was back to tech stocks over the last 5 years. So what do all these trends have in common? Well, they all started as groups of stocks that were in a fast-growing part of the U.S. or global economy, but were ignored and cheaply priced, relatively speaking. And eventually investors and speculators took notice. Those same groups of stocks then became very popular and very expensive to own. That was the time to sell them. And the same process repeats itself again and again and again. And that's the secret, to focus on companies that are growing quickly, but whose shares haven't already doubled or tripled or quadrupled and talked about on CNBC every other minute. In other words, analyze value, identify value, which is what I do every week in my newsletter and in my social media feeds. Do we always get it right? No. And there are times like the last few months where speculating and investing, it seems just very, very easy. There are other times, though, where it will seem very hard. But the great thing about speculating and investing is that if you can manage, not to blow up your portfolio or your confidence during the hard times, you'll have plenty of cash to buy stocks when they're truly cheap and no one wants to own them. And I'd love for you to join me so we can stay on the right track together and reach our financial goals together. So if you like what I'm talking about, make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel, follow me on Twitter and on Facebook. I'm Jeff Yastine.